The air in the sanctum of eternal precedent was not air at all, but a pressurized medium of inert gases and suspended crystalline motes that glittered like a captive nebula. It carried sound not as a vibration, but as a pure, resonant chime, each syllable spoken by the assembled Glycan High Council a note in a somber, unending chord. At the heart of this cavernous chamber, carved from the core of a planetoid geode, a column of coherent light projected the source of their existential dread. It was a sphere, nothing more, a perfect, featureless orb of absolute blackness hanging in the void between the twin suns of the Cathar system. It did not reflect light, it consumed it. It did not emit any energy signature their deep-range auguries could decipher. It was a hole in the fabric of reality, a void in the data stream of the cosmos. It was a warship that should not exist. High Adjudicator Vorlag, his obsidian carapace shimmering with the faint, internal light of his 2 millennia of memories, felt the collective disquiet of the council resonate through the floor of polished silicon. His own thoughts were a carefully shielded eddy in the torrent of shared consciousness. For generations, the Glycan hegemony had been the arbiters of this galactic arm. Their power was not one of conquest, but of order. Their fleets, vast and majestic as migrating star shoals, did not destroy worlds but corrected their orbits, tamed their stars, and shepherded nascent civilizations away from self-destructive paths. Their authority was built upon the continuum, a shared ancestral memory that granted them a perspective measured in geological time. They had seen empires rise from cosmic dust and fall back into it. They had cataloged every known form of propulsion, every viable weapon system, every theoretical model of physics. None of them, not one entry in their billion-year archive, could account for the object they now called the anomaly. "It moves without propulsion," Grand Marshal Kalen chimed, his tone a sharp, percussive clang of military impatience. His own carapace was etched with the fractal scars of a dozen campaigns, his inner light a fiery, restless crimson. The hololith shimmered, showing the sphere's recorded trajectory. It did not travel from point A to point B, it was simply at point A, and then it was at point B. There was no transition, no energy flare, no detectable warping of spacetime. It was a violation of causality itself. "It disables our patrols without aggression. The battle minds of our finest capital ships report nothing. One moment they are on an intercept course, the next their navigational logs are wiped. Their motive systems are cold, and they are adrift 10 light-years from their last known position with no memory of the intervening time." A low, mournful hum came from the technocrat circle. "We have analyzed the displaced vessels," resonated a voice thin and precise as a laser. "There is no damage, no sign of intrusion. It is as if their journey was not interrupted, but simply unwritten." The universe around them was edited, and they were moved to a different page. This is not technology as we understand it. It is an act of creation or uncreation. It is the power of a god. Vorlag let the silence that followed stretch, a palpable weight in the chamber. The word God was not one the Glycan used lightly. They were a people of absolute logic, of cause and effect recorded with perfect fidelity in the continuum. To them, the universe was a grand, intricate mechanism, and they were its master custodians. To suggest a force that could operate outside its known mechanics was the highest form of heresy, and yet the evidence hung before them, a sphere of impossible blackness. "And the beings who command this vessel?" Vorlag finally chimed, his voice a deep, sonorous bass that calmed the agitated resonance in the chamber. "The humans, as they call themselves." The hololith shifted. The sphere was replaced by an image of a bipedal creature, soft-skinned and fragile-looking. It was encased in a suit of simple, functional design, its face visible through a transparent visor. The image was a composite, pieced together from fleeting long-range scans and signals intercepted from their fledgling communications network. They were a young race, barely spacefaring by Glycan standards. Their home system was a chaotic, unremarkable yellow star on the galactic rim. They had only just begun to colonize their own moons. Their technology was primitive, fusion-based, loud with radiation and inefficiency. By all metrics in the continuum, they should be centuries away from developing even rudimentary faster-than-light travel. They were, in the grand cosmic scale, irrelevant. "A paradox," Marshal Kalen stated, the sound sharp as shattering crystal. "The creators are infants, yet their creation is a deity. It is illogical." The consensus of the War Council is that they did not build it. They found it, an artifact of a precursor race, a power they have foolishly awakened and cannot possibly control. They are children playing with a weapon that can unmake reality. "A weapon they have not used," Vorlag countered, his internal light pulsing a soft, contemplative blue. Every fleet we have sent to contain it, they have merely relocated. They have not destroyed a single drone, nor fired a single shot. They have absorbed every scan, every probe, every transmission we have sent, and they have responded with nothing but silence. A predatory silence, Kalen retorted. They observe, they learn, they assess our capabilities. The displacement of our fleets is a strategic maneuver, forcing us to retract our patrols, creating a vacuum they can expand into. This is a subtle, insidious form of invasion. Vorlag extended one of his long, multi-jointed limbs, gesturing toward the image of the human. Look at it, Marshal, look at the data. Their lifespans are a flicker, a mere century if they are fortunate. Their societies are a constant storm of conflict and change. Their history, what little we can decipher of it, is a litany of self-inflicted wounds. They are ephemeral, chaotic. The patience, the restraint, the sheer cosmic arrogance demonstrated by this vessel, it does not align with the psychological profile of its supposed masters. The debate continued, a symphony of fear, pride, and confusion. Some argued for a preemptive strike with reality-warping torpedoes, a tactic of last resort that risked tearing a wound in spacetime itself. Others counseled for a full withdrawal, to quarantine the entire sector and watch from a safe distance. They were the Glycan hegemony, the architects of galactic stability, and they were acting like frightened organisms recoiling from a stimulus they could not comprehend. Vorlag listened, his mind sifting through the arguments but always returning to the central, knowing mystery. The ship did not feel like a weapon. A weapon is a tool of intent, and its actions imply purpose. The sphere's actions were closer to a natural law. It did not attack, it simply was. And its presence enforced a new, incomprehensible rule upon their reality: you will not approach. As the debate reached its fever pitch, a new chime cut through the chamber, a soft, insistent ping from the master observatory. All resonance ceased, every Glycan froze. The chime was a high-priority alert, one that had not been used in 1,000 years. Vorlag felt a coldness spread through his core, a feeling alien to his kind. It was the icy touch of true, primal fear. On the hololith, the star map of the hegemony's core worlds appeared. A single red rune began to blink, pulsing like a dying heart. It was Glycan Prime, their throne world, the very center of their civilization. The anomaly, the black sphere, was no longer in the Cathar system. It had not traveled the thousands of light years in the intervening moments. It had simply arrived. It now hung in high orbit over their most sacred world, a silent black judgment suspended in their sky. Panic, a discordant shriek of high-frequency chimes, erupted in the sanctum. Kalen's inner light flared a brilliant, furious scarlet. It is an act of war, a decapitation strike. They bypassed our entire defense network. All fleets converge on Prime, prepare the Chronos cascade. But Vorlag did not hear him. He was transfixed by the image of the sphere. It was not menacing. It was perfectly still. It was waiting. There was no invasion force, no energy buildup, no ultimatum. It was the calmest, most terrifying declaration of absolute superiority he had ever witnessed. It had not broken through their defenses. It had simply ignored them, as a mountain ignores the wind. Their fleets, their weapons, their millennia of supremacy, they were irrelevant. And then, as the chaos in the sanctum swelled, a new signal was detected. It was not a transmission aimed at their communications grid. It was an alteration of the light from their own sun, a subtle modulation of photons that bypassed all their security. It resolved itself into a single, pure sine wave, a sound of perfect mathematical harmony. It was a carrier signal, and on it for the first time came a voice. It was not a translation, not a deciphered code. It was a clear, calm voice speaking flawless, high-formal Glycan, a dialect so ancient and pure it was used only in the deepest rites of the continuum. "We wish to speak," the voice said. "My name is Eva Rostova. I am the ambassador of humanity. We have come to deliver a message." The sanctum fell into a silence so profound it was like the heat death of the universe. The voice was not threatening. It was not arrogant. It was patient. It was the sound of a being who had all the time in the world and all the power in the cosmos, and had chosen to use it only to say, "Let us talk." Vorlag felt his ancient memories stir, a feeling he hadn't experienced since he was a youngling first connecting to the continuum. It was awe, utter soul-shaking awe. The warship that shouldn't exist was not a weapon. It was a podium. And humanity, the chaotic, short-lived primitives from the galactic rim, had just called the oldest and most powerful civilization in the galaxy to a meeting. The face that appeared on the hololith was that of an older human female. Her features were arranged in a configuration the Glycan archives classified as calm. Her eyes, a pale blue, held a depth that seemed to contradict her species' fleeting lifespan. There were fine lines etched around them, and at the corners of her mouth, patterns of experience that the Glycan, with their unchanging carapaces, could only approximate through the accumulation of memory. She was Ambassador Eva Rostova. She sat in a simple chair in a room of soft, indirect lighting. There were no weapons visible, no guards, no displays of technological might. There was only her and the profound, unnerving silence of the impossible ship she commanded. For a long moment, the Glycan High Council was collectively speechless. Their resonant language, capable of conveying immense nuance and layered meaning, failed them. They had prepared for an ultimatum, a declaration of conquest, or the incoherent babbling of a primitive race that had stumbled upon power beyond its comprehension. They had not prepared for this quiet, dignified composure. Grand Marshal Kalen was the first to recover, his resonance a harsh, grating challenge. "By what right do you trespass in our sovereign space? By what authority do you disable our fleets and hold our throne world hostage? Your vessel is a violation of natural law. Explain its existence, or we will unmake you and your abomination, even if it costs us a star." Ambassador Rostova inclined her head slightly, a gesture of acknowledgement, not submission. Her gaze did not waver from the central optic of the council chamber. "We have not held your world hostage, Marshal. We have positioned ourselves where our message could not be ignored. Your fleets were not disabled. They were moved, placed out of the path of a potential misunderstanding so that this conversation could happen without violence. We have watched your civilization for a long time, and we know that while you are wise, you are also proud. A message sent from the periphery would have been dismissed. A demonstration of force was necessary, but it was crucial that the demonstration be harmless." Her Glycan was perfect. Not just the vocabulary and syntax, but the cadence, the subtle pauses, the respectful honorifics. It was the speech of a scholar who had studied their culture with a depth that should have been impossible. Vorlag's own resonance, a deep and steadying hum, filled the chamber. "You speak our ancient tongue. You know our ways. How is this possible? Our civilization has been shielded for eons. The data you would need is not in any public archive. Our ship has extensive observational capabilities," Rostova replied, her expression unchanging. "We have learned much by listening. We have listened to the light from your stars, the gravity waves from your fleets, the echoes of your history that still reverberate through space-time. You are a people of memory, of the continuum. You believe that the past defines the present. We are a people of hope. We believe the future is a choice. Philosophy will not answer for your aggression," Kalen countered, his crimson light flaring. "Your ship, it defies physics. We demand to know its origin." "It does not defy physics, Marshal," Rostova said, her voice gentle but firm. "It simply operates on principles your science has not yet embraced. You perceive time as a river flowing in one direction. You have learned to build dams and divert its course with relativistic effects, but you believe its flow is immutable. We have learned to see the river for what it is, a dimension as navigable as space. Our ship does not travel through space in the conventional sense. It repositions itself within space-time." A wave of disbelief, a discordant chorus of chimes, swept through the sanctum. This was theoretical heresy, a concept dismissed by their greatest minds as a paradox-laden impossibility. "You claim to have mastered temporal mechanics," the head technocrat resonated, his voice sharp with skepticism. "Such a power would make you gods. It is precisely because we are not gods that we are so careful with it," Rostova replied. "Power is not a measure of divinity. It is a measure of responsibility, and we have a responsibility to share the message we have come to deliver." She paused, letting her words settle into the profound silence of the chamber. "The reason my ship, the Resilience Asterisk, should not exist by your understanding of the universe is because, in a way, it doesn't. Not yet. It is from your future." The silence that followed was different. It was no longer the silence of shock, but of dawning, terrifying comprehension. The on. Molly was not just an anomaly of space, but of time. The paradox was not that primitives had built an advanced ship. It was that the ship was the ancestor of its own creator's future technology. Vorlag felt his own thoughts reeling. The continuum was a record of the past, a perfect, unbroken chain of causality leading to the present. The idea of an effect preceding its cause was anathema to the Glycan mind. It was a crack in the foundation of their entire worldview. "From our future." He chimed, the words feeling heavy, unnatural. "From asterisk future," Rostova corrected gently. "A possible future, one of many. The one we come from is a dark one. It is a future of silence, of endings. A future in which your great and ancient civilization is but a ghost, a memory we studied from the ruins you left behind. A future where humanity is a flickering ember about to be extinguished. We are not invaders. We are refugees. We are messengers from a time that must not be allowed to come to pass." Kalen's resonance was pure, undiluted scorn. "A convenient fable, a tale to disarm us, to make us lower our guard. You expect us to believe that you, a race of short-lived, chaotic beings, developed this power and came back not to conquer, but to save us. It is the height of arrogance." In that moment, the Grand Marshal acted. He sent a silent, encrypted command to the Glycan Prime defense grid. It was an act of insubordination, born of pride and fear. On the hololith behind Rostova's calm image, the starfield suddenly blazed. A swarm of Glycan attack craft, sleek crystalline predators, materialized around the Resilience asterisk. They opened fire. Lances of coherent gravity, beams of pure, destructive energy, converged on the black sphere from all directions. It was a display of power that could crack a continent, a salvo that had humbled empires. Rostova did not flinch. She did not even look away from the council. Her pale blue eyes remained fixed on Vorlag. The council watched, their internal lights pulsing with a mixture of terror and anticipation. The beams of energy crossed the void, striking the surface of the sphere, and vanished. They did not explode. They did not reflect. They did not dissipate. They simply ceased to be. The light from them, the energy, the very information of their existence, was absorbed without a trace. The sphere remained as it was, perfect, black, and utterly silent. The attack craft, their energy reserves depleted, drifted powerlessly. Then Rostova spoke again, her voice still a model of perfect calm, yet now imbued with a profound sadness. "That is the core of our message, Marshal. Your weapons, your fleets, your power, they are irrelevant to the threat you will face. Your pride is your undoing. In the future from which we came, that is the mistake you made. You faced the coming darkness with fleets and gravity lances, and you were swept away like dust." Vorlag felt a tremor run through his being. The demonstration was undeniable. They had thrown the power of a star at the vessel, and it had not even registered. It was like trying to punch the concept of gravity. He finally understood. The ship's defense was not a shield. It was a statement of fact. It was causality itself being enforced. This attack does not happen, and so it did not. "What is this threat?" Vorlag asked, his voice now quiet, stripped of all authority, leaving only the humble resonance of a being asking a question of a power far greater than itself. "What is this darkness that our entire hegemony could not stop?" Rostova's calm expression finally softened, replaced by a deep, shared sorrow that transcended species. "It is not a who, it is a what. It is a fundamental principle of the universe you have yet to discover. A great filter, we called it the silence. It is not a fleet, not an empire. It is a wave of order, a cosmic process that seeks to reduce complexity. It is drawn to high concentrations of information, to civilizations that reach a certain threshold of technological and social interconnectedness. It does not destroy. It simplifies. It erases information. It dismantles civilizations, star by star, mind by mind, until all that is left is simple chemistry and the quiet hum of physics." She gestured to the simple room behind her. "This ship, the Resilience Asterisk, is not a warship. It is an ark, a library. It is the last repository of our culture, our science, our art, our memory. We did not build it to fight the silence. You cannot fight entropy. We built it to endure it, to shield one small seed of our existence from the storm. And we sent it back. We sent it back to find you. Because in our timeline we faced the silence alone, and we failed. Our only hope for a different future was to ensure that the next time it came, you would not face it alone either." The revelation settled over the sanctum, a truth so vast and terrible it dwarfed their centuries of pride. They were not the masters of the galaxy. They were simple. Why the next ripened fruit on the tree, waiting for the harvest? Their long history, their stable empire, their mastery of physics, it had all just made them a more tempting target for a cosmic force of unimaginable scale. The humans, the chaotic, fragile, ephemeral humans, had outthought eternity. They hadn't tried to build a better sword. They had built a key, a message in a bottle, and thrown it into the ocean of time. Vorlag looked at the calm human on the screen. Saw not a primitive, but a survivor. A being forged in chaos, whose entire existence was a struggle against impermanence. The Glycans' long lives and shared memory had made them complacent, rigid. The humans' short, desperate lives had forced them to be endlessly adaptable, endlessly hopeful. They could imagine impossible futures because they were not bound by an immutable past. "You came back to warn us," Vorlag chimed, the concept still struggling to find purchase in his mind. An act of altruism, the word felt foreign, illogical. The continuum taught that all actions were based on the preservation and advancement of the self. "We call it empathy," Rostova replied, a faint, sad smile touching her lips for the first time. "The understanding that the suffering of another is, in a way, your own. In the grand silence of the cosmos, a single voice is a fragile thing. A chorus is harder to extinguish. The resilience is not just a library of humanity. It contains our final, desperate scientific discovery, a theoretical model of the silence, its patterns, its triggers, its weaknesses. We did not have time to use it. But you might. Your civilization is ancient. Your minds are vast. United with our knowledge and your experience, we might build not just a shield, but a solution. We might teach the universe a new song." The Grand Marshal's crimson light had faded to a dull, bewildered rose. He was silent. His entire military philosophy, his lifetime of strategic thinking, had been rendered obsolete. How do you wage war against a physical law? How do you plot a campaign against a wave of cosmic forgetting? It was Vorlag who made the decision. The continuum was a record of the past, but it was also a guide. And when faced with a truly unprecedented event, the only logical path was to create a new precedent. He turned his gaze from the hololith and faced the assembled council, his own internal light shining a brilliant, decisive gold, the color of creation. "We have based our existence on the certainty of the past," his voice resonated, a powerful, commanding chord that left no room for debate. "Today, we have been offered a choice for the future. We can cling to our pride and fade into a silent memory, or we can embrace this empathy. This alliance with these strange, short-lived beings who have traversed time itself to offer us a hand. The continuum has no precedent for this. Therefore, we shall create one. We will listen." He turned back to the image of Eva Rostova. "Ambassador, your message has been received. The Glycan hegemony will hear your proposal." The fragile alliance was forged not in fire, but in the cold, clear light of shared existential dread. For the first time, Glycan and human minds met not as adversaries, but as collaborators. The chamber that had once been a war room became a laboratory, a philosophical forum. The Resilience did not land. It remained in orbit, a silent partner in the proceedings. But it opened its archives. Data streamed from the time-displaced vessel, a torrent of information that was both a gift and an epitaph. It was the history of a future that had failed, the science of a people who had stared into the abyss and recorded what they saw with heartbreaking precision. The Glycan technocrats, their minds accustomed to the orderly, predictable unfolding of physical law, were initially staggered by the human data. Human science was messy, intuitive, filled with breathtaking leaps of imagination that were often followed by catastrophic errors. But within that chaos was a brilliance the Glycan had lost, the ability to ask what if, without needing a precedent. They saw theories of metastable vacuum states, of information density thresholds, of something the humans called causal resonance. It was the science of the silence. Ambassador Rostova became a permanent fixture on the Sanctum's hololith, a calm, patient teacher guiding the ancient Glycan through the final, desperate testament of her species. She explained their history, the frantic, centuries-long project to build the asterisk Resilience as the evidence of the encroaching silence became undeniable. She spoke of Earth, their homeworld, not with the cold data of a Glycan archivist, but with a poet's love describing its oceans and forests, its art and its music, all of which now existed only within the memory banks of her ship. Vorlag found himself spending more and more time in dialogue with her, his internal monologues replaced by genuine conversation. He Lee. Arnett of human concepts that had no direct translation in the Glycan resonance. He learned of grief, of love, of sacrifice not for the collective, but for an individual. He began to understand that humanity's greatest strength was not their technology, but their emotional depth. It was their capacity to care so fiercely for their fleeting, fragile lives that had driven them to defy the end of the universe itself. "You value memory?" Rostova explained one cycle, her image seated against a backdrop that now showed a simulation of a green, sunlit forest. "You see it as a perfect record of what was. For us, memory is different. It is fallible, colored by emotion. But it is also the seed of our future. We remember our failures to avoid them. We remember our triumphs to inspire us. We remember those we have lost to honor them. Our past is not a chain that binds us. It is a foundation upon which we build. The continuum is perfect," Vorlag resonated, a statement that was, for his kind, a fundamental truth. "It does not change. And that is why you were doomed to fail against the silence alone," Rostova said, her tone gentle, not accusatory. "The silence is a pattern, a repeating, predictable pattern. Your adherence to precedent would have led you to fight it the same way over and over until you were extinguished. To defeat a pattern, you need unpredictability. You need chaos. You need hope. You need the ability to believe in a solution that has never existed before." As trust grew, the humans revealed more of the Resilience asterisk. It was not merely a library, it was a womb. Within its chronoton-shielded core were the cryopreserved genetic codes of millions of terrestrial species, and a small population of human embryos waiting for a safe harbor in time to be reborn. The ship was not just humanity's last memory, it was its last chance at a future. The weight of that responsibility was palpable in every word Rostova spoke, yet she bore it with a grace that humbled Vorlag. The joint project began. The Glycans' vast manufacturing capabilities and mastery over exotic matter were combined with humanity's radical, time-spanning theories. They did not seek to build a weapon to destroy the silence. As Rostova had said, you could not destroy a fundamental principle. Instead, they sought to create a shield, a causal inverter. The theory was audacious, to create a field around their core worlds that would broadcast a signal of such low information density, such profound simplicity, that the silence would pass over them, perceiving them as nothing more than primordial, uninhabited systems. It was an act of cosmic camouflage, hiding their civilization in plain sight by pretending to be cosmic dust. Months turned into years. A strange and beautiful hybrid culture began to form. Glycan artisans started carving sculptures inspired by human poetry. Human AI, running on Glycan crystalline computers, composed symphonies of resonant chimes and orchestral music. The two species, one ancient and rigid, the other young and chaotic, were finding a new, stronger form in their synthesis. Vorlag and Rostova, the adjudicator and the ambassador, became true friends, their conversations bridging the vast gap between their natures. The day the causal inverter was first activated was one of quiet solemnity. It was a network of massive installations, positioned in the void between stars, powered by harness singularities. At Vorlag's command, the network came online. There was no flash of light, no wave of energy. There was only a subtle shift in the fabric of reality, a deep, resonant hum that was felt more than heard. From any point outside their protected zone, the Glycan hegemony's core systems suddenly went dark. Not visually, but informationally. Their complex energy signatures, their communications, their very technological heartbeat, it all vanished, replaced by the simple background radiation of empty space. They had hidden themselves from the storm. A sense of profound relief, a harmonious chord of collective gratitude echoed through the sanctum. They had done it. They had found a way to survive. "It is done," Vorlag chimed, his golden light pulsing with a warmth Rostova had come to recognize as the Glycan equivalent of a smile. "You have given us a future, ambassador." "We have given us a future," she corrected softly. "The embryos on the asterisk resilience can now be brought to term. Humanity will live again on a new world under a new star as neighbors to the Glycan." It was a moment of triumph, the culmination of an impossible journey. The warship that shouldn't exist had not conquered the stars, but had instead shielded them. It had brought not war, but unity and salvation. But as the celebrations began, a single, unexpected signal cut through the quiet hum of the protected zone. It was not Glycan. It was not human. It was a tight beam transmission, emanating directly from the Resilience asterisk, but it was not from Rostova or the S. HIP's AI, it was an automated deep archive protocol, a dead man's switch triggered by the successful activation of the inverter. It was humanity's final message, the one they had hidden even from their own ambassador, the one they believed no one should ever receive unless they had already found a way to survive. It was the truth behind the silence. The hololith in the sanctum flickered, displaying not Rostova's face, but a star map of the entire galaxy. It was a map unlike any the Glycan had ever seen. It did not show stars or nebulae. It showed patterns, ancient, symmetrical patterns of cosmic energy laid out on a scale that dwarfed galaxies. At the center of each pattern was a dead galaxy, a universe of cold, dark matter. A new voice filled the sanctum, a recorded voice of a human male, a scientist from the distant, dead future. His tone was grim, filled with the weight of a terrible discovery. "If you are receiving this," the voice said, "it means the asterisk resilience asterisk project was a success. It means you have survived the silence, but surviving is not enough. You must understand what you are surviving. We were wrong. The silence is not a natural law, not a great filter. We searched for its source, and we found it. We traced the waves of informational decay back to their origin point, a point outside of spacetime as we know it." The star map zoomed out, showing their galaxy as a single swirl of light among countless others. Then it pulled back farther and farther still until the galaxies themselves were just points of light, forming incomprehensible structures. "The silence is not a what," the voice continued, filled with a sense of cosmic horror. "It is a who. It is a broadcast, a signal. It is an act of galactic husbandry. We are not the first civilization to face it. We found the ghosts of thousands of others in the deep time data. The silence is a tool used to periodically prune the universe of intelligent life, to keep the garden from getting overgrown. It is a do not enter sign, a keep off the grass warning on a cosmic scale." A new image appeared on the screen. It was a simulation, a theoretical model based on the data the humans had uncovered. It was a shape, a structure existing in the void between galaxies, a thing of impossible geometry and scale, a construct so vast it used galactic clusters as building materials. It was a megastructure that defied all known physics. "We do not know who built it," the voice concluded, the recording now laced with static, as if reality itself were trying to erase it. "We do not know why, but we know one thing: the silence is not the threat. It is the asterisk shield asterisk. It's a containment field. It's meant to keep us in, to keep us from ever getting advanced enough to notice what is on the other side. We were wrong. We weren't hiding from a storm. We were trying to break out of a cage. And now that you have hidden from the zookeeper's gaze, now that you have survived the culling, now you must face the question we died asking." The transmission ended, leaving one final image hanging in the air of the sanctum. It was a simple line of text, in both human English and high-formal Glycan. What were they keeping out? Vorlag stood motionless, his golden light fading to a dim, shocked gray. He looked at the face of Ambassador Rostova on the screen, who was staring at the message with the same expression of dawning horror. They had spent years fighting the monster in their basement, only to realize it was just the guard dog. The real threat was outside the house, and they had just learned how to silently pick the lock on the front door. The warship that shouldn't exist had not just saved their two species. It had delivered them to the edge of a new, infinitely larger and more terrifying mystery. Their struggle was not over. It had just begun. The quiet stars beyond their shield no longer looked empty. They looked watchful.